right, good Thursday morning, everyone, and welcome to KSAT News Now. It is Friday Eve. Cannot wait.
For the AKA Thursday, if you don't get what he's talking about.
Yes, it is a Thursday, very busy here at KSAT 12, and of course this is our bite-sized digital newscast. And you know what, we're streaming, we're podcasting, so check us out on all those different platforms that we have available for you guys.
Yeah, how's your day going?
I have pennies in my hand.
Oh, pennies, yeah.
Yes.
I have a
Why
stack
do I have
too.
pennies in my hand?
Well, we want you guys to look at your stack of pennies, break out your coin purse. It turns out they could be worth more than just 1 cent.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna do a little penny off, I guess, a little penny comparison here in just a little bit. Story that we're gonna talk about in just a little while. We also, this is a pretty interesting update on the West Side Bridge that collapsed on Tuesday. We know that there was a lot of people that have been following this story over the past 48 hours.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that there's just been so many people in that community that really had an attachment to this bridge.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not something you would normally think of, but yeah, we'll get into that. And then, of course, spring break is just a few weeks away. So what is San Antonio, the city of San Antonio, anticipating? What do you think?
Can you believe that spring break is right around the corner?
I feel like every time I say something like this, the days go by so fast. It just shows my age. But yeah, yes, I cannot believe that spring break is going to be here soon.
I bet, are your daughters ready for spring break? Bailey, your oldest one?
Well, she's always looking forward to it. And then when we're in it, she's like, I want to go back to school. So yeah, maybe that means we're not that much fun.
I know, maybe she gets tired of you guys. But yeah, getting ready for spring break. And of course, we're going to have a lot more here. But first of all, I want to talk about a story that you may have heard through social media. Obviously, it is a big national story at the moment right now, and it is out of the Central Florida area.
Yeah, so 3 people are dead, 2 others are injured. This is after a shooting that happened in Pine Hills near Orlando yesterday.
That's right. So the victims include a woman who's been identified as a 38-year-old Natasha Augustine, who was initially killed by the suspect, who was identified later as 19-year-old Keith Melvin Moses.
So according to law enforcement, after the first shooting, Moses went back to the scene and he then shot and killed a journalist who was covering that initial shooting. He also injured the photographer who was there as well.
That's right. So this was a news crew that was out there covering this first shooting, and they happened to come into contact with this individual here. So the reporter, if you're looking at us on KSAT.com, KSAT Plus, this reporter has been identified as 24-year-old Dylan Lyons, and the photographer is listed still in critical condition, has been identified as Jesse Walden.
Yes, investigators say Moses, the suspect, then went to a nearby house where he shot a mother and her 9-year-old daughter. The little girl did not survive. The mother was critically wounded. Yeah,
just unbelievable tragedy here. So the news crew here was part of the Spectrum News 13 TV station, and a fellow reporter, Josh Miller, said in a tribute about Dylan Lyons, quote, that he loved his career, he loved what he did, he loved the community, telling the stories of people, end quote.
So Moses is facing a first-degree murder charge for the first victim's death, and he will likely face more charges in connection with the other crimes that he's accused of committing. This story is just, it's an eye-opener, I'd say, for me. I'm a producer here at KSAT, and one thing that we do every single day in the morning is we go through a list of stories, what we want our reporters to cover, and a lot of times we're asking our reporters to go out and follow up on these crime scene shootings, on any number of stories, right? This can happen anywhere. However, it's making me rethink about what I'm asking reporters to go out and cover, what I'm asking them to really do, because it just puts everything into perspective. This should not have happened. It should never happen, gun violence, obviously, but yeah, it's really, I think it's going to make a bigger conversation, not just in our newsroom, but probably in newsrooms nationwide.
Yeah, and so it definitely hits close to home here, and to think of how young Dylan Lyons was, only 24 years old, basically starting out his career. And you're right, Priscilla, because we go out, we do these stories often, and usually, I mean, just to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit, again, the news crew was there after the report of the first shooting. So usually there's already police and crime scene investigators there at the location. So they're not going in, I mean, right after the shooting occurred. It's usually police respond, and then that's when our news crews go out there. So for the most part, you usually do feel pretty comfortable, pretty safe. But then these types of things happen, and it's just a constant reminder to always kind of look out for your coworker in this situation, the photographer, and always kind of keep an eye out on these types of things because, I mean, just from covering, a few of these, I mean, these are always such emotional, heated things that have just occurred, and thoughts and prayers to the families here affected as well, the 9-year-old victim, and you just never know, like there's always family members there that are very emotional, and there's just a lot going on in the moment. So yeah, it's definitely one thing to kind of like keep your senses up and be able to kind of make sure that you know your surroundings and also do the job at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's
I
a very
think
scary thing.
that's the line that we're walking on, right? We're trying to deliver news as journalists. We're trying to get that information out to our viewers, out to the community. And then something like this happens, and it's just, like I said, it's a shocker. It's an eye opener. And this would go even for traffic stories, right? We're always talking about keeping our crews safe when we're doing like a traffic story and making sure that we're not putting your lives in danger or at risk. So again, like I said, I think it's going to really spark some changes. Definitely a conversation, even more so than we're already having now. But a little bit back to the actual story. So they did say that Moses, the suspect, was likely. He did have a connection to the woman that he killed initially. However, they don't know that he had any connection to the 9-year-old. Obviously, he had no connection to the news crew. So, again, he is facing charges, more probably in the works for him. So yeah, definitely tragic just all the way around here. And again, this is Spectrum News 13 out of the Orlando area, and they've posted some tributes there to reporter Dylan Lyons, talking a little bit about his career, a little bit about his life, and obviously throughout social media, a lot of outpouring for support for that TV station, and of course the family of this young reporter. So yeah, pretty scary stuff there. Okay, moving on closer to home here, and we're following the latest here with Councilman Clayton Perry, who appears to be trying to get his case moved to the Veterans Treatment Courts. According to online court records, both of Perry's cases from his crash last November were transferred to the court this month. The Veterans Treatment Court serves veterans who suffer from PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, mental illness, or addiction.
And in exchange for completing the court's program, veterans do get some leniency for misdemeanor cases with probation or dismissal. Now, Perry retired from the military in 2000. Local defense attorney Joe Holscher told KSAT it would be a hard sell to make the link between his alleged drunk driving case and his military service, though.
The Bexar County DA's office is who will decide if this is going to be allowed into Veterans Treatment Court or not. So again, we also learned, he's not going to be up for re-election. Recently we learned that, and we'll just have to see where this case continues to move. But it's definitely been like piecing together slowly since that November incident.
Right, yeah, and we have some more information about the program itself on our website, KSAT.com, and they basically go into some details about, it has to be a service-related disability linked to drinking or substance abuse. There's definitely some comments there, some quotes from the attorney that Garrett Berger spoke with about how potentially Councilman Perry could get this case transferred into this court, but something that we will continue to follow.
Yep. So in other city news, the city is actually taking action to replace a pedestrian bridge that collapsed on the west side earlier this week.
All right, so what you're looking at now, you can see this surveillance video. This is from a nearby restaurant, Tacos del Rey. They captured the crash on camera. If you look on the upper kind of right-hand corner there, yeah, unbelievable there that no one was injured. The driver, and fortunately no one was on this pedestrian bridge at the time. So this happened in the 1900 block of Castroville Road. Police say the driver of the dump truck, as you saw right there, did not lower the truck's bed. He was working on a nearby site, and of course the bed hit the bridge, causing it to collapse.
So the city intends to rebuild the bridge, and Public Works staff will work with the contractor to design it. For the time being, Public Works is installing a pedestrian signal crossing for students and families crossing the street. A safety officer will be there between school peak hours and in the morning and the afternoon. Yeah,
so this was something that we had been reaching out to the city about because obviously this is a very important pedestrian bridge. So I was there the day that it happened and then the day after yesterday. So it's a very busy road. So these families definitely need this in order to get to the elementary school across the street, which is Gardendale Elementary, and there's also a daycare center there as well. But also, you mentioned earlier, sort of just the connection that people in this neighborhood have with this bridge. The first person we talked to called it an icon, just part of their neighborhood, and it was actually named after Pedro Romero. He was a local sort of community advocate, and he petitioned the city back in the 70s to get that bridge built for these families, for these kids to be able to safely cross Castroville Road. Also, one footnote to this, apparently he also did it because the drainage system was so bad there that that's part of the stretch, that part of the street would flood pretty often when it would rain, and kids waiting on the corner there to cross the street, they would always get splashed with water from drivers that were crossing by. Or he even said that they had to like roll up their jeans or their pants or take off their shoes just to not get soaked from the water that had gathered there. So this bridge, obviously very important to that area there.
Well, knowing that, it's no surprise then that they have such an attachment and they use it every single day. So I'm glad to hear that they're going to be rebuilding it. They obviously need it out there. But yeah, I really loved that you were able to just kind of like take the story that we would have gone from the collapse itself, and then kind of expand on it on how it's affecting the community, because that's why we do it in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the family there wants to obviously get that bridge rebuilt, and it is still obviously dedicated to their grandfather, who did a lot for that neighborhood. Yeah, you're right. These little stories here of these individuals that do these. You don't ever really hear their name. The first time I ever heard his name, but obviously they do a lot there for their communities. So hopefully we could get that bridge rebuilt there pretty soon.
Yeah, and we were talking about they're using it for school, right? So like we said earlier, spring break is going to be coming up soon, and the Alamo City is putting its best foot forward as it gets ready, you know, for a busy spring break is kind of what they're expecting.
Yeah, so the people that promote the tourism in San Antonio, they're optimistic that their work will show when spring breakers flood the streets in a few weeks. So we spoke to a woman named Michelle Madsen. She's the president and CEO of the San Antonio Hotel and Lodging Association, and she says that revenue has been on the increase in recent years, and this is good news here. Those levels are back to pre-pandemic levels.
So the president of Visit San Antonio, Mark Anderson, says the United Kingdom is the #1 overseas market for San Antonio. I know. Anderson says 20,000 Brits visit the city each year. The goal is to double those numbers. And it's interesting.
I wonder why.
I mean, I kind of don't. San Antonio is such rich, and it's so rich in history. We have so many different things that people come to see. We have the Riverwalk, we have the Alamo, we have all these theme parks. So like, I mean, to us, we're here every day, so we're not visiting, but people really like to come and see all this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just wondering what the advertising situation is in like London or what else, where they're like, hey, come to San Antonio, the Alamo. Yeah, like, and they're getting these individuals here. I found that to be super interesting that a lot of people from the United Kingdom make their way to San Antonio to check out probably the Riverwalk, the Alamo.
And probably also like the weather, even though we get a little bit frustrated when it's hot, it's probably ideal when you're on holiday, I guess.
That's true. I remember like growing up, you know, we would go on vacations, whatever, we would come back to the airport at SA International, and we would just see people and like, oh, where are you from? They're like, we're from New York, or we're from Seattle, you know, just across the world, across the country. I'm like, oh yeah, people come to San Antonio to actually do the tourist thing. Like, it's fun, right?
Well, even this week, there's like this international walking club that's here in San Antonio.
I know what you're talking about.
So if you're walking or you're driving down the streets, you might see all these people walking. They're from all over the world.
That's really cool.
They're here doing like a week-long walking.
That's really cool.
I want to hang out with these people.
I know. I'd be interested in.
I want to party with these people.
Exactly. Walking San Antonio stuff. That's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Okay. So yes, let's talk about the weather today, because we actually do have some changes to the forecast, specifically regarding tomorrow, with some new data that's come into the Weather Center here this morning. A quick look at visibilities, though, because that was the big story this morning. We did have some more humid air move back in, especially to our southern and eastern counties along and east of I-35 overnight. So we did have some locally dense fog reported in spots, especially southern Ware County back over to Pleasanton. The good news is, though, is that those visibilities have drastically improved here throughout the second half of the morning. And in fact, you step outside here in San Antonio right now, we are actually starting to see the sunshine take back over as well. Temperatures warmer than average yet again today. Yesterday we got up to 89 degrees here in San Antonio, way warmer than where we should be for this time of year, close to 90. It was kind of hot out there yesterday afternoon, honestly. 76 right now here in SA, 71 in Canyon Lake, 74 in Seguin, already approaching 80 though across our far western counties, just shy of 80 over in Hondo, stretching over to Uvalde as well. Throughout the remainder of this Thursday, we'll start to see mostly sunny skies return into the afternoon. Those daytime highs are still topping off in the upper 70s, near about 80, so not as hot as what we saw yesterday, but still warmer than where we should be for this time of year by about 10 degrees. Also, you might notice a northeast breeze gusting upwards of about 20 miles per hour at times. Here's the thing, later this evening, after the sun goes down, we're going to start to see the cloud cover work back in. That is all thanks to some overrunning from a weak front that moves in today. We'll see a reinforcing push of some of that shallow, cooler air move in overnight tonight and tomorrow. So that means by wake up time tomorrow morning, we slip into the 50s here in San Antonio. And then here's the thing, with that cloud cover in place, and that cooler air filtering in, it's now looking like we may struggle to climb out of the low to mid 60s. Some models even potentially have us holding in the 50s tomorrow as well. So tomorrow is looking like a cooler day to wrap up the work week. Now it also is possible that we find some areas of patchy drizzle there as well. And the same into Saturday and Sunday, we could find some pockets of morning drizzle out there as well. Temperature wise for your Saturday, we'll start off in the 50s, highs climb into the mid 60s here in San Antonio, still with some cloud cover for the back half of the weekend as well. A little bit warmer by about 10 degrees in the mid 70s by Sunday. Then we'll monitor for another boundary to slip in here by the beginning of next week. But you can see temperature wise, it kind of has the opposite effect because drier air will move in, also be pretty windy, and the sunshine returns. So when you combine all of those things together, guys, next week is also looking warmer than average. So if you're liking that cooler feel, it's looking like tomorrow will be one of the cooler days in the extended 7-day forecast. So we'll keep eyes on that. Of course, latest information can always be found on the KSAT Weather Authority app.
I'm not ready.
I know.
Yeah, even yesterday I was like, what is going on here?
It was so breezy though.
Yes, it was so windy. We had the high fire danger and the sunshine. It'll still be, a little bit more sunny out there today, but really tonight and tomorrow the cloud cover is going to move back in.
Yeah.
Okay, so some decent weather to close out the rodeo.
There you go, this
there we
weekend.
go.
Last
Rodeo
chance.
San Antonio. I know, last chance. Nelly going to be up in the house on Friday. We got to have good weather for Nelly.
Oh, Nelly.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mia. Okay, RJ, we have our
Here's
stack
we got
of pennies.
Here. Yes.
Pennies. Do you have a piggy bank at home by any chance?
No, I don't.
What do you do with your change?
You know what? It's all over the place. It's in my Jeep. It's in my backpack, obviously, because I just pulled out 6 pennies out of nowhere there. No, I really don't have a piggy bank. I should, at some point.
I mean, my kids have piggy banks, but
that's always fun, though.
Usually I just empty out my coin purse and give it all to them. So. Yeah. But so we're talking about pennies because have you ever heard of $1 million penny? Turns out it's actually a thing. Okay,
here we go. So some rare pennies go for hundreds, thousands, and even millions of dollars. And check this out. Back last month, January, a 58 dated Lincoln cent mistakenly made with doubling in some letters of the design sold for over $1.1 million. So double letters in the design, $1.1 million.
Yeah, so I guess it's the flaw itself, not necessarily the date. But a report from Reuters notes that a rare 1792 American penny sold at auction for $2.6 million in 2015. $2.6 million. My goodness.
Here, and so CNBC is here reporting that other pennies with these high dollar values include a 1943 bronze Lincoln, the 1969 S, I didn't even realize that pennies had this many categories, S double die obverse, and the 1992 close AM reverse, and more. So what did I just say?
I mean, like we said, it has to do with the flaws, but our penny off is going to be who has the oldest penny.
Oh, okay. So who has the oldest? So these are probably only worth 1 cent.
1 cent.
Right. Okay. A 2020 here. I can't read that. Oh, 2001.
2000. Well, my oldest one here is 1970. 1970.
2008 week. 70's pretty good.
70's good.
Pretty
And
That's
you
an
know
old
what?
penny.
I never look at
16.
coins, but
78.
there are some with like a different symbol on the back. It's
Yeah.
not, I mean, I don't know. I hadn't looked at a coin in a long time, but this also got me thinking.
Your kids have all of them.
Do you remember in the 90s when the quarters changed and they did like one for each 50, each of the 50
Yes,
states?
it was a controversy all the way around.
Yeah,
on those
yeah.
Quarters.
But I always wanted to
collect
get
them?
one of those books.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I
that
never
was a big
did,
thing.
but
yeah,
yeah.
when people like collecting those quarters from like different states and stuff like that.
Oh.
Landon, producing for us today, says that he had one of those books
So you were
that
special,
open up that had the
Landon.
coins and stuff.
See, that's what I wanted. Yeah. I don't think I ever told anyone I wanted it. I just like,
The stuff that entertained us when we were in the 90s.
So what's your winning penny?
78. What'd you
78.
get?
1970, and I owe this one actually not to
Dang
my
it.
own coin purse, but Erica Hernandez gave it to me, so
Boo,
it counts.
you
I
cheated.
win.
You cheated.
Doo-doo-doo.
I see what's going on here.
Yeah, you need to get, what is that?
Y'all
Like a,
messing around here. I know. What are those things called?
An
where they like
ocular or
examine?
something?
That sounds
I don't know.
about right. I don't know. Yeah, this is really interesting. So that 1992 closed AM penny. Apparently, if the A and the M in America are too close, if they're almost touching, apparently that can get you $1 million.
so get your coins out.
Check your pennies.
Yeah, check your pennies. A penny for your thoughts. That's his favorite phrase.
No, I hate that.
Well, anyway, thanks for joining us this Thursday morning, and we will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.
All right, yeah, Spurs are back on the courts. You know what? Good or bad, the Spurs are back. They take on the Mavericks tonight. Go Spurs, go Pennies.